What's crucial for this budget is that we see a pathway to restore Australian standard of living as fast as possible, and that will be our focus. We've seen an unprecedented and unrivalled collapse in our standard of living. On the current plan of the government and the forecasts of the RBA, we're not going to get back to the standard of living Australians had when Labor came to power until 2030 or 2031. That is nigh on a lost decade for Australians. They deserve and need better than that. And that means we've got to beat inflation, boost growth, cut unnecessary waste, get rid of unnecessary red tape, back small business, fix housing. These are the themes you'll see us focusing on over the coming days and weeks, and of course the focus of our budget and reply as well.
And when you're talking about that standard of living, you're referring to income versus inflation. Inflation has come down markedly under this government, with the headline rate now sitting at 2.4%. It was 6.1% when your party left office. But
prices haven't, and prices have gone up much faster than incomes. And that's why we've had an 8% reduction in our standard of living. That means our incomes buy 8% less goods and services than they did 2.5 years ago. Now, we've got data going back to the 1950s. We've never seen this before. And sitting underneath that is a huge collapse in labour productivity, around 6%. And we know that means the economy is just delivering less. It is a broken economy for hardworking Australians.
So the federal government, since the start of the year, has promised around $35 billion extra in federal spending. A lot of that has to do with Medicare and the PBS. You have matched or backed a number of those policies. What's the difference? What are the specifics that are different when it comes to how you will be spending in government?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So we realise Australians need to be protected against downsides, particularly at a time like this when they're really struggling. So our focus in managing spending and cutting waste has been on non-essential services. We'll continue to back in essential services. Health, for instance, is an area that we know Australians rely on. But if it's not essential services, then it needs to be under serious scrutiny. So, for instance, we've seen with Labor's manufacturing policies, the first investment they made was in a quantum company based out of the United States. This is not where we should be spending money right now. Taxpayers' money needs to be treated extremely carefully. Every Australian household is having to manage its budget closely, as are small businesses, and so too should the government.
So what areas would you be making cuts in?
Well, we've already opposed over $100 billion of spending. We've said the public service doesn't need to grow at a time like this. We've said that manufacturing policies that are not delivering manufacturing, and I gave you an example a moment ago, are not the right way to spend taxpayers' money right now. We've said you don't need to be building 28,000 kilometres of power lines if you're building new zero emissions generators, nuclear generators, where you've already got the transmission lines. So these are the sorts of sensible policies that mean we get the supply side of the economy moving, we boost growth, and we beat inflation simultaneously. That's what the government has absolutely failed to do.
On the nuclear policy, is it going to be the case that the government is going to have to stump up most of the money in order for the nuclear industry in Australia to work? And does that run counter to your small government policy?
Look, the reality of the energy system over recent years is it has required government to play more of a role than I would prefer. But that's a reality that we are in, and we can debate all day why it's got to this. And this is true not just in Australia, you're seeing similar patterns in other countries as well. What we are absolutely focused on, though, is what we have to do to deliver that affordable, reliable, sustainable energy that Australians deserve and need. And we are not seeing that from this government, with, in the last 2 years, increases in prices, sharp increases in prices, up to $1,300 more than was promised. People are paying on their electricity bills in Western Sydney, in my electorate, which is an extraordinary situation, whilst emissions have not gone down in any meaningful way. This is a complete and utter disaster, and it's another example of an economy that's not working for hardworking Australians under this Labor government.
Angus Taylor, great to have you on the program. Thank you.
Good to be with you.